Hey guys, welcome back to the video. In this video, we're talking more about the Batman. So that's right, we're back with another theory video, and I know you guys might be noticing this is the first time I'm ever wearing a Batman hat on my head, and I'll explain that story a little bit later. But just so you guys know, in this video, we're gonna go over some new theories and just some new predictions for the movie, going over some interviews from the movie, and just talking some more about the Batman. Now, I do want to warn you guys that I'm not gonna be covering any of the TV spots except for this one in this video, because this is the only one that I watched, and this is the only one I'm going to be covering. There's a bunch more. I've been seeing GIFs and different clips and stuff like that. We have a full clip from the cathedral scene. We have a lot of stuff from the Batmobile car chase scene. We have a lot of footage, but I'm not going to be watching it. I'm trying to go into this movie as blind as possible, other than obviously the trailers that we've already seen. But apparently these TV spots and little teasers and ads are showing a lot of footage, so I'm trying to avoid them as best as possible. Again, the game one is the only one that I've seen, which is the one that we're going to be going over today, as well as again going over some interviews, some theories, and giving you guys a story about how I got this hat. So before we get into the videos and you're in here, make sure to subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss any time I upload a video or we go live. But don't wasting more time, let's get into it. So starting it off with the story of how I got this hat from the Batman. So if you guys didn't know, Little Caesars and the Batman are basically doing this collab, and you know me, I love my hats. If you put together all of my videos, I'd probably be wearing hats in most of them, so it makes sense as to why I'd want a hat for the Batman, which is my most anticipated movie of all time. And there's like a leather Batman hat that I saw online that's selling with like this leather backpack and stuff like that, but it's way too expensive for me. And when I heard that crew members at Little Caesars were getting these hats for working there, I was like, okay, I gotta figure out how to get my hands on this. So I called up two different Little Caesars pizzas, and the first place just would not sell to me. Both actually told me to come in person so I could talk to the manager, and I was like, okay, I guess I gotta do what I have to do to get this hat at Little Caesars. And so also they're selling a pizza. So basically the lady at first was like, you gotta buy a pizza, and then she's like, I'll think about giving it to you. So it's like, I'm not gonna do that. That's just a waste of my money. So I went to the second Little Caesars, and they basically said $25 and I'll give it to you. Initially the lady said 35. I rounded to 30, and then she's like, actually I'm kidding, you know, we'll do 25. And then the box that they had was also pretty sick, but she wouldn't give me the box. I don't know why. She sold me the hat but not the box. It is what it is. But long story short, I did get the hat. I actually posted a TikTok of me going there to get it, so I'll play that right now. So this is my story of how I got the Little Caesars exclusive, the Batman hat. I was wondering if you guys had any of those Batman hats, and I needed to get my hands on it.
35, yeah.
Mission accomplished. We got that hat. It took a little bit of convincing of the people there, but we freaking got it. Let's go. All right, I'm gonna try it on really quick. Ooh, this thing is sexy. And then right here on the back, you can see they have the Little Caesars logo right here. This one, the lady hadn't even worn it yet, so she gave it to me for like 25 bucks, which is absolutely goated. I'll definitely be wearing this in my next Batman video, so subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that. But yeah, that's basically the story on how I got this hat. If you guys want to get it, you can probably go to your local Little Caesars and see if you can buy it off of someone. This is actually brand new. The lady didn't even wear it yet, which is great. In terms of detail on this hat, there's nothing absolutely crazy. It just says only in theaters right here, and then right here it has the Batman logo within Batman. It's all stitched on there. It's not just print. On the back here, it does say Little Caesars right here, so that's a pretty cool little detail. But overall, the hat is nothing too insane, but it's still a pretty dope hat. I'll be wearing this opening night to the Batman, so I'm pretty excited. But yeah, now let's move on to talking about this TV spot called The Game. I think it's called The Riddler's Game or something like that. I'll just play it out here for you guys really quick.
Like it or not, it's Riddler's Game now.
I've always loved little puzzles.
What are we looking for? More symbols. Jesus, his next victim is Bruce Wayne.
It can be cruel, poetic, or blind. But when it's denied, it's violence you may find.
The answer's justice.
So as you can see, the TV spot does show some crazy stuff, most notably the contact eye lens thing, but I'll get into that later in this video. So I want to start off with probably my biggest part of this entire TV spot, other than the contact, which is the truth board, or I call it, it's called the Truth of Gotham. It says the Truth of Gotham on there. It's basically the Riddler's board of crossing out people's names and stuff like that. We actually saw this in the Japanese trailer that I did a video on. I broke that down, so if you're interested in that, check that out. But basically, this entire board connects everything, and it's very interesting to me how Batman's identity is like basically revealed here. GCPD might just be ignoring it. I don't know what the vibe is right now, but it looks like, from what you can see on screen right here, that the truth about Gotham, this entire board basically shows that it's Bruce Wayne. It's literally the entire Wayne family. It says Thomas Wayne for murderer, not mayor. He crossed that out. And it says Batman Justice. It has pictures of Batman. Batman strikes again. Wayne spotted. Thomas Wayne opens up Gotham Orphanage. It has pictures of Bruce Wayne going to the cathedral, and then it has pictures of the cathedral scene, which makes me think that this takes place after the cathedral stuff, which is very interesting to see because there's also some hidden details of who is gonna die that's on this board that I think I have found out, which is why I put Mystery Death in the title. But I have a few screenshots and outlines that I took here as I was watching it just to point certain things out. But as you can see right here, it says Gotham terrorized. Who is the Batman? I know the real you. So I'm big. The reason I'm bringing this up is because other than this Mystery Death thing, which I'll mention later, is that I don't know if the Riddler actually knows Batman's identity. I've been saying he does for a long time, and I still might think, I think that he might like know his identity, but at the same time, I'm becoming more and more skeptical. Maybe he put together this board so that the GCPD gets confused and they find out that it's Batman or something along those lines, or that they find out it's Bruce Wayne or something along those lines. So as I squared off right here, Riddler says, I know the real you. So that's very interesting right there, right? And then as you can see right here, who is the Bat? And then you also see more stuff like I mentioned before. Thomas Wayne for murder. Batman strikes again. A picture of Bruce Wayne at the cathedral where Jim Gordon literally just saw him. So this is very interesting because there's also another little section in this teaser where Jim Gordon goes that Bruce Wayne is his next victim.
Jesus, his next victim is Bruce Wayne.
And so this is something that I think might be just teasing the fact that, or teasing GCPD to go like find Bruce Wayne and protect him or something along those lines. And maybe that's what this is trying to do. But at the same time, it could just be, this could actually be Riddler's board. Like it could be Riddler himself trying to figure all this out. But at the same time, knowing Riddler, you could have probably just planted this. But the reason I'm still really confused as to if Riddler knows Batman's identity being Bruce Wayne or not is because in the trailers, when we hear Riddler say Bruce Wayne, that could all literally just be clips combined. It's a trailer. They're known to mislead us. And so there could literally be 100% misleading there that we don't even know about. And I'm assuming that that's the case. And also the thing is, I'm going to be honest, if the Riddler does know Batman's identity, he has to die off. That's my biggest problem, is that I don't want the Riddler to die off. I would love like the final movie in this trilogy or like a fourth finale massive movie to have a lot of this rogues gallery that's been built up over time come back. I just don't want Riddler to die. I don't really like when villains this big of a scale or this deep into a hero's psyche die off right away. And the MCU has had this problem a lot of times. It's like the villains are so good, but they die off in that movie because they have to move on later on. And if they bring them back at some eventual point, I wouldn't mind that. But at the same time, it's like, I can suspend my disbelief to a certain extent, but it's like, if the Riddler knows it's Batman, obviously he's gonna tell everyone. I know I keep jumping all over the place. In this iteration, the Batman doesn't necessarily have someone that we know about so far, like the love interest or like a prodigy or anything like that. Like, we don't know any of that stuff. And maybe there is a love interest, maybe there is a prodigy that's in this movie, but I don't think there is. The thing is, the Riddler wouldn't just be, the Riddler would, if he knew his identity, he would probably want to take someone that Batman loves and torture them. So far, we know like Gil Coulson gets tortured. There's a rat trap torture thing going on. Probably the Mystery Death that I'll talk about later, they might die. There's just so many different things that might happen, but they're not directly people that Batman cares about. They're obviously higher ups in Gotham because that's the Riddler's whole plan, is to take down the higher ups in Gotham one by one, showing the city who like the true leader is and how corrupt they really are and all that kind of stuff. That's great. But the Riddler knowing Batman's identity won't really affect Batman in a personal way, I guess, because he's not going to take someone that the Batman really loves and torture them, because the Batman in this iteration of what we know so far doesn't really have someone close to him like that. Maybe Alfred, but I'm pretty sure Alfred could take on Riddler on his own in a 1v1 fight. I don't have too much else to say about the board in general, talking about Batman's identity. I just feel like it's weird if the Riddler does know his identity. I think it would be better if Riddler doesn't know his identity, but at the same time, if Riddler does know his identity and Batman knows, or Batman doesn't know that he does, and he's just teasing him by saying Bruce Wayne and kind of hinting towards the fact that the Riddler does know his identity, I think that would be a cool play to have, because we've never really seen that in a villain, especially kind of torturing Batman on that mental side, knowing that he's Bruce Wayne. Batman knows that the Riddler knows his secret and that any moment in time he could just tell the world. I also think it would make sense since he knew the Waynes since they were younger, and that lifelong family connection, being the same age as Bruce Wayne and seeing Bruce Wayne grow up in a family that's way richer. He wasn't orphaned by his parents. Well, technically he was, but not in the way that Riddler was. Just seeing these kids grow up complete opposite of each other, but one is actually like rich and the other one's poor in an orphanage, that parallel would be really great. And the Riddler finally having somewhat of an upper hand on the Batman, I think that's a pretty dope story. But now to get to the secret death that I mentioned in the title of this video and earlier in this video. So if we look at this board right here, basically if you just look around, right, there's nothing too interesting. And we know that since that Japanese trailer, we know that the Riddler marked out the people that I guess just that he doesn't like and stuff like that, because he does mark out Bruce's eyes and Bruce's father's eyes, Thomas Wayne, in this one photo. But if we go down here, we can see, as I mentioned before, we do see pictures from the cathedral scene where they basically crashed the car in. There's pictures of Bruce Wayne going inside of the cathedral and stuff like that. So this automatically takes place after that. But I also noticed Don Mitchell Jr., the guy that dies in the cathedral, I think he gets his head blown up or something like that. I didn't actually watch the cathedral clip, like I mentioned before. I'm not watching any full clips, but he's obviously the one who dies. We see him in the trailers. I think he's the one that with his face wrapped in the duct tape in the trailer. I'm not sure about that, but he's definitely the one in the cathedral scene with the phone in his hand, the 2 Batman note on him. He's dead, right? And you can see clearly here that he caved out his eyes, he caved out his mouth and stuff like that. But now if you go a little bit to the side, you can see Pete Savage's face has had the same thing happen to him. And I think that this leads to the fact that Pete Savage is confirmed to die. And literally right next to it, we see a Savage murder reported. Now, this could be Pete Savage is involved in a murder, and that could be the case. But at the same time, we see that his eyes are caved in, his mouth is caved in, just like Don Mitchell's. And I just think that I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that Pete Savage is confirmed to die now. I'm probably not the first one that thought of this. I think he was rumored to die for the longest time, and I've always thought he was going to die, but I definitely feel like this is confirmation that he is going to die. And then the final thing I want to mention about Pete Savage really quickly is in this close-up picture, we do say Mayor says no to the Batman. I don't care what he's trying to do. And then something about law enforcement at the bottom. And I just think that I think we can connect this to one of the scenes where he's basically giving a speech, and this is in the first DC Fandom teaser trailer. He's giving a speech, and Batman is, we can see that close up of Batman's eyes. I think he's on a motorcycle, and we see that, I think that's when he's going to be giving the speech, and Bruce is going to be listening from a far distance, maybe outlining or basically calling out Batman as a vigilante and saying that whatever you're doing, Batman, is illegal, do it again, and the law enforcement will be on your head. And we literally see that in the Bat and the Cat trailer where Pete Savage is like, he's a vigilante, and then Batman runs away from the cops. I think that's going to be a phenomenal sequence, and just as a whole, I think this Pete Savage Batman feud will be great. But that's basically all I have to say about the whole board thing regarding the Riddler and Batman's identity and stuff like that. But now moving on to the rest of the trailer, we basically see a bat, and he's basically screeching before the title card comes up. And I do think that this bat is just going to be a ploy that the Riddler puts down. We do have this shot of the Riddler and Batman looking down at something, so I think it's just going to be another thing put down by the Riddler. And then we see a shot of Batman and Riddler in what looks like Arkham State Hospital, because as you can see, obviously right here, the Riddler has the Arkham State Hospital jacket on. And so there's two things here, right? Number one, I thought that the Riddler's identity would be hid throughout the entirety of this movie. We saw it a lot in the cathedral scene, and I think that there'll be a big reveal between when he's getting caught by the cops in the cafe, the cathedral scene, and obviously the Arkham State Hospital scene, because in the second DC Fandom trailer, we did see that obviously Batman says, "What have you done?" And you can see Riddler's face in like the slight reflection, like you can see his glasses. So obviously Batman will be able to see his face. I think they're just hiding the Riddler's face in the marketing thus far. far. And I was really hopeful that they would hide the Riddler's face in the movie. That doesn't seem to be the case, but it is what it is. Nevertheless, in this scene itself, this is probably before the Batman sits down to say, "What have you done?" But other than that, I don't think there's anything too crazy. It does look like behind where the Riddler is sitting, there's a lot of different cells. So it does look like this is going to be a hospital / prison where they hold a lot of the Batman's rogues gallery. So at the end of the movie, maybe when he's going to visit the Riddler, or when he's going to visit mystery character that I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it just in case, he might be somewhere in the jail cell and pop up just a little bit in the post-credit scene or the end of the movie. So I just think it's a pretty cool detail that there are jail cells behind where the Riddler's staying. Just putting it out there. But now moving on to probably the most interesting part of this TV spot, which is the reveal that Batman has contact lenses that can record stuff. And you can see it right here. He basically places the contact lenses down onto some pad and it basically reads it. You can see the little technology inside of it swirling around. You can also see it in his eyes right here. And people are saying that it's playing within his eyes. I don't think that's the case. I'm like 99% sure that he can only see, like he can only like video out of it. I'm pretty sure that the stuff moving in the contact is just on the screen in front of him. I just think it's very interesting that Bruce has all this high tech when all of his other stuff is super homemade, like his grappling guns, smoke bombs, his suit. But I also think it's very interesting because a long time ago, Matt Reeves did compare this Batman to the new James Bond, where it's like he's very grounded, but at the same time, he has a few gadgets that he pulls out here and there that are just super batshit crazy and they're just so cool. And I can't wait to see that. I'm excited to see a super grounded Batman, but with some super crazy tech, because that's what Batman really is. He has access to all of the Wayne technology and all of this kind of stuff. And we had Lucius Fox in the Nolan movies, and that was a great way to give Batman his tech. And in this movie, I'm very excited to see how he ends up getting the tech, if he made it himself, if he got it from Wayne technology and stuff like that, how he got his hands on it. I'm very excited to see. And even if they don't explain it, I wouldn't really mind, because it's like, obviously Batman has a few crazy tech gadgets here and there, as long as he's not overflowing with it and he still has the basics of fighting and all of this like stealth stuff, which obviously he's basically already confirmed to have through these trailers where he's beating these thugs up. But one super cool Easter egg that I did find was when rewatching the Bat and the Cat trailer, and Alfred basically says, "Who is that? Is that a new friend?" Something along those lines. And Bruce says, "I don't really know." In the background, you can actually see obviously a picture of Selina Kyle right there if you zoom into where Alfred is. But if you zoom in even more, you can see in the corner right here, it is an eye-shaped cutout, which does look like the circle cutout where he places the contact down in. So I'm excited to see all of the footage that he does get from his eye. And it looks like Alfred is obviously seeing the same screen that Bruce is, and it's probably when he's flipping through the contacts, or the pictures on the contacts, I should say. But it does look very interesting, the fact that it is going to be a decent part of this movie. And I'm pretty sure that he'll just have the contacts in all of the nightclub in case he goes out. He's probably going to the nightclub to find some stuff, and he's obviously going to have the contacts in his eyes when he's there. When he gets back, him and Alfred will probably go through the footage, and that's probably where this is all from, because you can see Selina has that high cut wig, the pink wig, as well as like, I think it's like a green dress or something like that. We see clips of this in the trailer as well. So I'm excited to see how much we get to see the eye contacts. But with that being said, now I want to go into the interviews. So there's a bunch of interviews coming out. I'll be listing where the quote is from at the end of each quote, because some of them are pretty long. So this first quote is from Premiere France, and Robert Pattinson says, "I sincerely believe that the tone of the Batman has nothing to do opposed to the previous movies. It feels new. In the comics, Batman is someone more unstable. If you actually read between the lines, it's very, very sad. Whereas in the cinema, it's always his heroic side that's put forward. The Batman does the opposite. We capture the inner bubbling of the character. In my opinion, the only other to achieve this is the animated film Batman Mask of the Phantasm. When I saw it, it clicked. The Batman is kind of a curse. It's a burden. But hey man, you decided that, right? No. I have to be the Batman. I was chosen, not the other way around. I don't think we've really seen that in a live film." I really love this quote because Pattinson understands that being Batman isn't really a choice as much as it is just a thing that was put onto you, a mantle that was brought upon you after the trauma you've been through, and not wanting other kids to have to go through the same trauma of obviously losing their parents to thugs and stuff like that, and just all of these like these crazy experiences that the Batman has went through as a child, he doesn't want anyone else to go through that, and he thinks that he's the only one that can actually fix it. I did go over the entire last full magazine that came out from Movie Maker in a previous video on the channel, so if you want to check that out, go ahead and do so. But in that, Matt Reeves did also say the Batman in this movie wants to try and reverse what's been done before to his parents and stuff like that, but obviously we know that that can never be done, so it's a never-ending quest. And I found that as to being like the true quest of the Batman, the real reason that he is the Batman. And that's why I really like this quote, because again, if you pair that with what Matt Reeves said about him wanting to reverse everything that happens back in his life and trying to fix everything, it's physically impossible to do so. So seeing him go for this impossible goal is something that I'm very excited for. Now, this next quote is from Matt Reeves, and he talks about possible spin-offs for the Batman. He says, it'll obviously have a lot to do with how people receive this film, but a lot of things are in the works. I automatically think that I knew he was going to say this, because obviously we know the GCPD sequel is already in the works. I'm pretty sure it's still in pre-production, but it's still going to happen. We have the Penguin show that's been rumored for Colin Farrell and stuff like that. I personally don't have any massive hopes for any other sequels. I would love to see a spin-off for like a villain, but in movie form, kind of like what the Joker did. I would love to see a solo movie for a villain and then see him as the actual Batman opposing the Batman in an actual film later down the line. But I'm excited to see what they do with the Penguin in the spin-off show. Hopefully it's not a prequel. I doubt that the Penguin's gonna die in this movie, but hopefully it's not some sort of prequel show setting her up. I hope that it shows more of the future of Gotham's underground politics and stuff like that, rather than the upper ground, which we'll be seeing in this movie. Now, another thing I quickly did want to mention is viewer Ann, the guy talked with the Batman test screenings. He did say that there will be 3 total Dick Graysons in live action. But this next quote comes from Esquire. Matt Reeves is talking about the Batmobile here, and he says, wouldn't it be cool if this guy's a loner and gearhead and fashioning these things by himself, taking parts of other cars and kit cars? So it's recognizable as a car this time, but it's like a muscle car, one that he's made himself. Now, this quote, nothing too crazy, but just the Batmobile as a whole, I really do like what they're doing with it. Actually, one of my most latest Batman videos was me building this Batmobile. Let me actually just take this off really quick, but yeah. This is my Batmobile right here. I really like it. I just put Batman here on the top, so when I put it up on my shelf, Batman doesn't fall over. But I really do like what they've done with this Batmobile. And you can see there's just so much detail in the Lego set alone that I can't wait to see what they do with it in the movie. I'm actually very excited to see what they do in terms of showing us the building of the car. I doubt that they'll show him like assembling it for the first time, but maybe tweaking it with Alfred by his side. That would be something cool I'd like to see. But other than that, I don't have much to say about this quote. The Batmobile, very excited for it, and I love the design, and I love that it's a muscle car. Now, this next quote is again from Esquire. Matt Reeves talks about the Batman in general. He says, is this guy some sort of wayward, reckless drug addict? And the truth is, he is kind of a drug addict. His drug is the addiction to drive for revenge. He's like Batman Kurt Cobain. Now, we've seen this Kurt Cobain reference a lot, especially in, I think it was Variety or the Empire magazine. But the one part of this quote that really stood out to me once again that connects back to the Movie Maker magazine is that he says his drug is his addiction to the drive for revenge. And this is once again the whole drive and his whole set out to reverse what's been done before, which is literally impossible. Matt Reeves himself says it is impossible for him to reverse what has been done. And so this drug of revenge, I think, is going to be something that haunts him forever. So I'm excited to see what direction they take that in. Is that going to be a one movie thing? I think it'll be the whole trilogy where he's just dealing with the fact that he can't reverse what's happened and he has to live with that. Now, these last two are very important to me. The last one is actually going to be about the eye paint around his eyes and under the mask and stuff like that, which I'll talk about later after this quote, which is about why Matt Reeves chose Robert Pattinson. This is once again from Esquire. Matt Reeves says, I watched Good Time and I thought, okay, he's got an inner kind of rage that connects with this character and a dangerousness, and I can feel this desperation, and I became dead set on it being Rob. Now, first of all, Good Time is one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love what the Safdie brothers did with the movie, but Robert Pattinson is phenomenal in that movie, and I'm very happy that that movie specifically is what launched Matt Reeves to want him as Batman. And as a whole, even Robert Pattinson in Lighthouse, he's phenomenal, but I do think that Robert Pattinson was the perfect choice for Batman, and knowing that Matt Reeves wrote this Batman script specifically for Robert Pattinson shows that Robert Pattinson is the perfect fit for this iteration of the Batman. And I'm reiterating this from what I said in the Movie Maker magazine and the Empire magazine, because Matt Reeves has talked a lot about this script being for Robert Pattinson as Batman, and so I can't wait to see what they do character-wise with this, like set pieces, action, cinematography, sound design, score. All of that is great, but it comes down to who is playing the hero, and if that person gives a good performance, I think Robert Pattinson will 100,000% deliver. But now to the final quote from the interview with Matt Reeves. This is once again from Esquire. He's talking about the eye makeup in the Batman. Matt Reeves says, "You can't wear the cowl and not wear that. All of the Batmen wear that. I just love the idea of taking off the mask, and under that, there's sweating and the dripping and the whole theatricality of becoming this character." Now, once again, there's not a crazy amount to say about this, but I really just like the fact that the eye paint stays on, and it kind of feels like a piece of Batman stays on as Bruce Wayne is figuring out all this other stuff. There's that one shot in the trailer where he's basically looking at Alfred and says, "I'm not done," or "I could do this forever," or something like that, where he basically says that "I'll die doing this if I have to," and having that black eye paint on his face makes him look absolutely deranged, but that's what the point is. He's meant to be fused with Batman, and this is like the 3 personality thing that they talked about in the Movie Maker magazine. There's just no difference, and the lines are getting blurred between Bruce Wayne's public personality, his private personality, and Bruce Wayne as Batman. And I think that the eye makeup on a technical level might actually symbolize the blurring of lines between all of these different characters. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. I'm sorry for not going over all of the TV spots, by the way, and all the clips and doing reactions to all that kind of stuff. I'm just not going to watch them in general because I don't want to see them. We're about 5 weeks away until the Batman finally hits theaters. I'll be there opening night, ready to watch it. Also, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on, because I make Batman videos and I'll be making them before this movie comes out and after this movie comes out, as well as subscribe for all other superhero and movie news content. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.